Saving money is generally seen as a responsible financial habit, and if you watch any finance videos about the basics, saving will likely top the list as one of the number one things to do. But even though it's something that we all need to do, if we're not careful, saving money can become counterproductive. Now, this isn't always the case, obviously, so I'm not saying that you should stop beefing up your accounts. But under certain circumstances, you might need to pull it back a little bit and reprioritize how you're allocating your funds. So today we're looking at a few signs that you might be saving too much. And the first sign is that you have a sizable emergency fund, but you're not investing. Personal finance content creators, myself included, love to talk about emergency funds. And I always say a safety net is one of the best gifts you can give to yourself, because there is no better feeling than hitting a rough patch and knowing that at least for the time being, everything will be okay. But even though you can never go wrong with having one, it is possible to have too much money in your emergency fund. Now, the ideal target for this account is a minimum 3 to 6 months of living expenses. This can help cover costs in the event of a job loss or a drop in income. But one thing that some people don't realize is that once you've saved enough to cover you for those 3 to 6 months, the general recommendation from that point forward is to start investing some of your money. And just to make sure that we're all on the same page, that recommendation doesn't mean that you have to completely stop putting money into your savings account. But at the same time, once you get to this point, it really becomes the time to start thinking about taking things to the next level, which is growing your money instead of just preserving it. The bottom line is that investing allows your money to grow over time, and it provides the opportunity for greater returns. And I know it can be intimidating, but I promise you it's not as hard as you might think. When some people hear the word investing, their mind immediately thinks about buying individual stocks. However, investing does not necessarily involve picking individual stocks. Getting started can be as simple as opening a brokerage account, funding this account, and then choosing an ETF or an index fund. And the best part is that some brokers don't require a minimum to get started. So another sign is that you're saving on a consistent basis, but you're also carrying credit card debt. Now, to be clear, there is absolutely nothing wrong with using a credit card. The key, however, is to be responsible with it, meaning you only charge what you can afford and you pay off your balance in full every single month. Credit cards usually carry higher interest rates, which means that the interest you're paying on your debt is likely higher than the interest you're earning on your savings, in which case it's generally more financially beneficial to prioritize paying off the credit card so you avoid accruing additional interest. Now, I will never recommend emptying your savings account to pay off a credit card balance, because what you're doing is taking away your safety net. And without that protection, it really only takes one emergency to put you back into debt. But on the other hand, if you have more than enough in savings to cover an emergency, it might make sense to take some of that money and use it to wipe out those balances, or at the very least pay them down. And then going forward, take any money that you would normally put into savings and use that to pay down any remaining balance. And on the flip side of that, you might be saving too much if you have a sizable retirement account but no emergency fund. Saving for retirement should be a priority, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you want to take it easy in your later years and not hustle as much, the earlier you start saving, the better. However, you should not save for retirement at the expense of building an emergency fund, because both are equally important. Over the years, I've heard numerous reports of people having pretty good sized retirement accounts, but then only having about $1,000 or $2,000 liquid in savings to handle an emergency. And I really have a hard time wrapping my head around that, because if something major were to happen, their only options would be to possibly use a credit card, maybe tap their home's equity if that's an option, borrowing the money, or taking money out of their retirement account early, which can be costly. So if any of this sounds like you, it might be time to get serious about building an actual emergency fund and realizing that just because nothing significant has happened yet doesn't mean that it won't. And one thing you might consider doing, especially if you feel as if you don't have a lot of extra money to save, is to temporarily reduce your retirement contributions, but just for a little bit. And once you've built up your emergency fund, you can then increase them again. Another sign is that you're constantly pulling money out of your savings to pay bills. And when it comes to saving money, it's also important to be realistic about your circumstances. And this can encompass so much. And for some people, this might include being realistic about overspending and acknowledging that you could save more if you really wanted to. And for others, it might be acknowledging that you're saving more than you can technically afford. And one of the best ways to gauge the latter is to acknowledge how often you're dipping into your savings to pay bills. Because if you're putting $600 into savings each month, yet you consistently have to go into the account and take out money to cover expenses, that could be a sign that you can't afford to save that amount. But don't get me wrong, because I think the effort is very commendable, and I do think it's a good idea to challenge ourselves. Some people do better with saving money when they're able to hit their weekly or monthly goals. So if you set a goal that's technically unattainable and you don't hit it, that can demotivate you. So if you notice this pattern in yourself, it might be time to tweak a few things and approach your savings plan more realistically. And finally, you might be saving too much if you're not enjoying life. Saving money does not mean you have to deprive yourself. It's not irresponsible to buy coffee or enjoy the occasional splurge. And saving money does not mean sacrificing fun. Now, there's plenty of advice about how to be frugal and how to save money. And while a lot of it is balance, some of it does lean more to the extreme side. And at the end of the day, you have to decide which direction to go. But I will say this. If you've entirely given up eating out, shopping, vacations, hobbies, or anything else that you enjoy for the sake of being able to save as much as you possibly can, and you're not happy, you owe it to yourself to loosen the purse strings a little. This doesn't mean that you have to go crazy and start buying up everything that you see. However, something that a lot of people don't realize is that allowing yourself the occasional indulgence is actually helpful in the long run. Constantly depriving yourself is not good because one, it can lead to frugal burnout, and two, it's not really sustainable, and it sometimes leads to revenge shopping, where basically a person will give up or get tired of being frugal, and then they start spending excessively in order to make up for the past. So a much better approach, where just about everybody wins, is to save some and enjoy some. That's all that I have for you guys today. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, and also subscribe if you like personal finance and you want to see more videos like this. I typically post on the weekend, so thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in a few days.